Cuando
President and CEO of the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation, or otherwise known as BCIC. So it is a pleasure and an honor to see such a diverse and dynamic gathering of minds here today. Over the next few days, we'll embark on a journey filled with innovation, collaboration, and inspiration as we celebrate the entrepreneurial spirit thriving in the Rio Grande Valley. From groundbreaking ideas to transformative technologies, this week is about embracing the spirit of creativity and forging connections that will shape the future of our region. So let's dive in and seize the opportunities and make this inaugural Startup Week an unforgettable experience. Now, before we start, this event could not have been possible without amazing sponsors and our partners that believe in the Rio Grande Valley is a fertile ground for innovation entrepreneurship. Special thanks to our Brownsville Community Improvement Board of Directors, our BCIC team, Nathan, Nelson, Victoria, Miriam, Lisette, Nuvia, Samantha, and Rudy. The University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, thank you. Linda Ufflin and her amazing team. And also the UT RGV students are here that are helping volunteering throughout this whole week. That is such an undertaking. We're really appreciative of that. PNC Bank, City of Brownsville, Luke Freya Motors, Arca Continental Coca-Cola Southwest Beverages, Edinburgh EDC, Harlingen EDC, Mission EDC, Bay Area Houston Economic Partnership, Alamo Angels, Geekdom, VelocityTX, Methodist Healthcare Ministry, Rhombus Hospitality Group, Visit Brownsville TX, Texas Manufacturing Assistance Center, Her Texas, and Great Box LLC. Thank you so much for your support in helping us put this event together. Ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests, and esteemed members of the Rio Grande Valley Startup Texas event, it is my honor to welcome to the stage a visionary leader and advocate for innovation in our community, John Cowan, the Mayor of Brownsville. Let's give a round of applause as we welcome Mayor Cowan to the stage.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with you all. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, entrepreneurs, and visionaries, it is my great pleasure to extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you to the inaugural Rio Grande Valley Startup Week here at the eBridge Center for Business and Commercialization. As mayor of the city of Brownsville, I am deeply honored to stand before you in a community brimming with creativity, resilience, and an unwavering entrepreneurial spirit. This week, we come together not only to celebrate innovation, but also to recognize the profound impact that startups and small businesses have on the fabric of our local economy. Here in the Rio Grande Valley, small businesses are the lifeblood of our economy, the backbone upon which our communities are built. They are the neighborhood cafes where friends gather, the family-owned shops that line our streets, and the startups pushing the boundaries of what's possible. They create jobs, drive economic growth, and embody the spirit of innovation that defines our region. The eBridge Center symbolizes our commitment to fostering a supportive ecosystem for startups and businesses to thrive. It's a place where ideas are nurtured, collaborations are formed, and dreams are turned into reality. Throughout this week, as we engage in workshops, panel discussions, and networking events, let us remember the importance of collaboration, inclusivity, and community. Let us harness the collective power of our diverse talents and perspectives to drive positive change and create a brighter future for all those who call Rio Grande Valley home. So on behalf of the city of Brownsville, I extend my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for being here today. Thank you for your passion, your dedication, and your unwavering commitment to building a stronger, more vibrant community. Together, let us seize the opportunities that lie ahead and embark on a vision of innovation, collaboration, and shared success. Welcome to the inaugural Rio Grande Valley Startup Week. May it be filled with inspiration, discovery, and boundless possibility. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Mary Cowan, for always supporting BCIC in our mission of advancing an open and inclusive ecosystem of entrepreneurship. From our Startup Texas Accelerator and our seed fund program to our Blueprint Business programs to the amazing long conferences we are kicking off today, the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley has been our partner every step of the way. At this time, I would like to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Ron Garza, the Senior Associate Vice President of Workforce and Economic Development at UTRGV. Ron?
Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? This is a undertaking, to say the very, very least. I first have to get that message across to everybody so everybody acknowledges how much work BCIC, how much work UTRGV, the team that does something like this. So, I remember when they first started talking about it, right? And some people asked themselves, why do this, right? Why put all this time and effort to do something like this? You have a week full of activities, 80 plus speakers, so much content. Bottom line is, it's a great return on investment. eBridge was opened a little over a year ago, and this has been a dream for a while. And we pride ourselves all across the Rio Grande Valley to talk about how strong the entrepreneurial spirit is, but it just doesn't happen, right? You have to be intentional about building that capacity. You have to be intentional about teaching entrepreneurs to take it to the next level. Sometimes, when we think about mom and pop businesses in the Rio Grande Valley, we'll still think about sometimes some of the small ones, which they're all vital, right? Last week I had an opportunity to meet with some Department of Defense folks, and they were talking about small businesses, 2 or 3 operations that were working with $1 million contracts, right? So events like this will change the narrative of what small business means, right? Why can't our mom and pops be the millionaires and the next billionaires? They can, right? So it only goes with things like this. UTRGV is a very special place. Obviously we're a fine academic institution of higher education, 30,000 plus students, right? But Dr. Bailey's founding, spirit was to put back into the community. So not all universities have community engagement and economic development programs like the way we do. We have a lot of infrastructure when it comes to building small businesses, because the very fact is there's a lot of folks that graduate or don't graduate that want to start their own businesses, right? So we want to make sure that is very strong, and I can't say enough about what Brownsville's done to the ecosystem with that. David, we were chatting before this, the original Mr. Worldwide, that you're going to be blessed to have a keynote, but he asked me something which was intriguing. Is the needle moving, right? And, we work, UTRGV, we work with cities all across the Rio Grande Valley. And everybody supports and sees the value of small businesses, right? But with this infusion that eBridge has done in just, the last 14 months or so, the needle is moving to where the entrepreneurs are starting to take ownership in a way that is shaping the direction of what we do in support. That's where we know it's working, right? It's not just government or entities or economic development organizations driving, it's the entrepreneurs shaping it and moving it forward. So it's been a thrill to see. I'm so glad that UTRGV has such an integral part in everything we do here. Again, if we can give a round of applause to BCIC for creating this ecosystem. And then I can't say enough about UTRGV, with Linda and her entire team with ECC and all the other programs with VBOC and SBDC and everything we do. Thank you guys for all your hard work. It's definitely worth it, and weeks like this proves it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ron, and a big round of applause for UTRGV ECC team housed here at eBridge. Linda and your team, can you please stand? All right, I want to give a big applause. Thank you so much for your hard work in preparing this week. So much of what we're working on and building an ecosystem of entrepreneurship would not be possible without the continued help and support of our regional university. So, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, and fellow champions of innovation, it is an honor to introduce our keynote speaker for our inaugural RGV Startup Week, David Fonseca. David's journey as a seasoned entrepreneur and a visionary leader has been nothing short of remarkable. With over a decade of experience in growing and launching universities, he has not only spearheaded numerous successful initiatives, but has also been instrumental in driving growth and transformation in organizations across various sectors. As the former CEO of VelocityTX, David's leadership has left an undeniable mark on San Antonio entrepreneurship landscape. His dedication to nurturing startup ecosystems is further evidenced by extensive board service with entities like Animal Angels and Geekdom. His influence extends globally through his role as professor at the Universidad del Rosario in Colombia, where he passionately champions entrepreneurship education. As an advisor for Growth Wheel Inc. and a sought-out speaker across 12 countries, he shares his wealth of knowledge and inspires entrepreneurs worldwide. David's academic achievements include BBA in finance, an MBA from Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and prestigious accolades like the Young Alumni Award and the Doctoral Honoris Causa underscore his unwavering dedication to excellence. Recognized in Texas 100 list and honored as 40 under 40 in San Antonio Business Journal, David is undeniably a dynamic force driving innovation, empowering future generations and entrepreneurs. As we gather here today to celebrate the spirit of entrepreneurship at Rio Grande Valley Startup Texas Week, I encourage you to seize this opportunity to glean insights from David's vast expertise. His speech promised to ignite our entrepreneurial spirits, challenge our perspectives, and propel you towards new heights of success. So without further ado, please, let's welcome David up to the stage.
Thank you, Corey. You're very kind.
Oh, thank you.
Hello. Hello, 1, 2, 3, checking. How are you guys? Good? You're excited? Of course. Yes. You know, I wish my mom was here to listen to that introduction. That was pretty remarkable, you know. Actually, she will be very proud. She will think I'm a good boy. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much, guys, for being here today. I think that one of the most valuable assets that a human has is time. All of us only have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the fact that you decided to be here with us today means the world. My promise to you guys is make it worthwhile. When I put this presentation together, I really thought about what could move the needle and what could be a high-impact activity. I believe high-impact activities differentiate us from successful people and not successful people. And one, it will be tell you a little bit about myself so you know who's David and the failures that I've had throughout my career. Then talk a little bit about, you know, what is thinking globally and how I was forced to think globally and act locally. And last but not least, let's have a conversation about the Rio Grande Valley. Sounds good? Before I start, I know that you already received a lot of accolades, Linda Hoffland, but you know, every time that I come to the Rio Grande Valley, I feel like home. I've been coming here for the last 10 years, and when this place was not even built yet, and to be here and now see the beautiful art, the beautiful people, the beautiful infrastructure is pretty amazing. So I think for that, you deserve a round of applause, guys. You have done a tremendous job. So everything has to start, you know, with a story, and this is baby David. I'm from Colombia, and I remember that day, actually that day, I ran down the hallway to a Christmas tree that fell in my face, and my mom wasn't very happy with me. But where I wanted to start the conversation was, Philip, what do you want it to be when you were a baby? Baby Philip.
A rock star.
A rock star. Oh, man. You look like a rock star. So, and what are you doing right now?
I'm a business executive.
He's a business executive. For people that don't know, Philip is helping in the back scene, helping with the Startup Week. And for that, I usually throw chocolates to people. And this is my favorite chocolate from Colombia. It's called a Choco Break, and I'm going to give you one. Who else would like to tell me what they wanted to be when they were little? It's a very insightful question, you know.
For some apparent reason, I wanted to be the $6 million man.
You wanted to be a $6 million man?
Yeah.
What is that? Like you wanted to be worth $6 million?
No, the Zyborg, Steve Majors.
Steve Majors? I don't know.
So from
Show from the 70s? Well, I haven't watched this series, but. And what are you doing right now?
And he was an astronaut.
Oh, he was an astronaut? In the movie? It's crazy that you say that because I wanted to be an astronaut. And if you look at the picture, you see the United States there. And I was raised with the thought that the United States was a free country and that you could do whatever you wanted and work hard. So at a very young age, when I was turning 18, I moved to United States. I was only 18 and I spent 18 years here and became a US citizen. I'm very proud and I did it the right way. It took only 10 years and a lot of money and effort. But 8 months ago, I went back. In all seriousness, I said, when I become like super millionaire, I'm gonna put somebody to lobby in Washington because the system is broken. Sorry to say that, but I truly believe that we need to have the best and brightest in the United States. And I pay my taxes and I'm, a US citizen, so I'm allowed to have an opinion now. And then 8 months ago, I moved back to Colombia to actually work and build companies from scratch, something that is very hard to do. But along the way, I wanted you guys to think of David as a co-founder. Can somebody tell me what comes to mind when you say or you think about a co-founder? A helper. Okay. Co means like collaborate. Linda, can you throw the chocolate? Oh, I'll try. Go back. Oh, you got it. What else?
Yeah, we have 2 partners that cooperate.
2 partners that cooperate. Man, you're going to have a lot of chocolates today, man. You might want to share. Well, yeah, like I bolded on purpose the co because it's cooperate, collaborate, be able to co-build. And I look, of course, AI. This is Gemini. I'm using Grok now. Are you guys using AI? Yeah, Grok is pretty amazing. They just invested $10 billion. But they bring the blueprints, they bring the bricks together. We build something awesome and lasting, right? That's how I defined my journey. I've always been a co-founder. And as a co-founder, these are the companies that I've been involved on. More than 7. And most of them, I was a co-founder or I acquired them, changed the name, and try to do something cool. So with that, I would like to move on into, how the story actually started. It started in the city that never sleeps, Corpus Christi, Texas. I went to study there. My final degree, I got an academic scholarship from Colombia. And this guy that you see right here, he's Rick Bell. He's a white guy in his 55s. He was a very wealthy individual, and he was the executive director for the incubator that was in a couple of offices in the Chamber of Commerce down in Corpus Christi, Texas. And I had a French friend that actually liked wine. He was French. He said, David, we're building companies. You should come around. And my dad brought Swatch to Colombia. He actually distributed Orient Seiko, Citizen Mirage, and Tommy Hilfiger. And I knew about business. I'm like, oh, man, I'm ready. Put me in, coach. And I went and talked to Rick, and Rick says, David, I'm sorry, but we're not hiring undergraduate students. And I said, how come? And he's like, no, man, it's just for graduate students. I said, give me a chance. I'll tell you what, I'll volunteer. How about that? And I volunteered. And I worked really hard. And then in my life, and some of you guys have seen this face, but Bill Cohn came and ran our innovation center. And Bill became the dad in the United States I never had. He actually gave me my first job in the United States. And we worked very hard. We acquired this building in Flower Bluff. If you have been in Corpus Christi, Texas, I would love for you guys to stop by. And we started doing tons of events. We actually hired a very good team. You can see us there. Some of us are graduating. And some of you guys might recognize the guy in the bottom. He's Sebastian. He will be here tomorrow. And, in a short period of time, we were able to assist 135 companies, 14 different industries. And we start bringing international companies to Corpus Christi, Texas. Can you believe that? Through the Pacific Alliance. You guys have heard about the Pacific Alliance countries? Yeah, Mexico, Peru, Colombia, I'm missing one, and Chile. We were able to get some international companies in there. Lessons learned from that journey in Corpus Christi, which was around 7 years, is you got to surround yourself with smarter people. All of the people that you see, in the screen were way much smarter than I was, and they were pushing me really hard. 2, find good mentors, and 3, and this is for people that are running organizations like this, want to stop duplicating efforts, that lack of efficiency. We're doing business plans. And if there is anybody here of the SBDC, well, SBDCs are really good at doing business plans. We were not really good at doing business plans, so we decided to focus on other things, right? This experience took me to an organization that nowadays is called the International Business Innovation Association. back in the day was National Business Incubation Association, and they asked me to start training people globally. So actually this screen, the red shows where we actually have members. We have 2,200 members in 62 countries. It was a very strong organization, and they asked me to go to 35 countries with them to start training people. So I found myself in places like Qatar, Russia, trying to understand, these ecosystems and try to add value. In one of those trips, I actually was in Moscow, and I was with the chairman of the board, and he says, David, you should run for the board of INBIA. And I say, it's not gonna happen. And he says, why? And I go, well, because A, I'm under 30 years old, B, I'm brown, and 3, I don't speak English very well. And he laughed and he says, you're very cute. And he actually submitted the application for me, and I made it to the board. And 3 things happened. We changed the name. Now it's International Business Innovation Association. We let go the CEO, and we brought a new one. And sure enough, I got hired to run the international business for them. And as a matter of fact, I remembered back then talking to Julio and some other people from the team here, and they were kind enough to support our soft landing sites, which we gave you guys a designation to bring international companies. So in a short period of time, we were able to, grow rapidly to, with the State Department, they gave us $5 million and the European Commission, and we start moving companies, around the world to the United States. We actually brought 100 entrepreneurs to 10 soft landing sites, tons of learning there, and that's why I really mean it, not because of my personal experience only, but bringing companies here is very meaningful because they want to play in the most competitive market, which is the United States, but for them to stay is very hard. We make it very hard on people in terms of immigration. In one of those trips, I met one of my favorite companies. It's called Bioxyplast. Some of you guys have heard about it. This is my CEO, Kirsty Chadwick. This company is out of Valdivia, which is the gateway to the Patagonia. And they actually make plastics that dissolve in hot water, and it's a starch. So if the fish actually eat it, it's good for the fish. And in 6 months, they actually biodegrade. So I invested on the company, and nowadays I actually distribute these products in Miami, and we have 9 clients, and I'm very proud of what we have been able to accomplish with that. When I was having way too much fun, probably my last endeavor here in the United States before I head back was with Velocity. This crazy guy called Randy Herrick, he was the chairman, called me and says, David, we heard that you're traveling the world, and we want you to bring international companies to San Antonio, Texas. And I said, so what are we doing? And he says, well, we're doing this. And he showed me this drawing. We're creating an innovation district for science and technology. We're going to connect, support, and fund biotechnology companies. And I said, okay, so what do we got? And he says, we haven't bought any buildings yet. So he flew me to San Antonio, and I was like, oh my God, this area where we bought these buildings had 30% unemployment rate, guys. If you benchmark that against the national average, it was like 3.4 unemployment rate. Here it was like 30%. There was a lot of prostitution, there was a lot of drugs, there was a lot of, it was a kind of a crazy project, but I decided to take the leap, and I jumped, and that was the guy, Randy Herrick, and my job was to actually build companies and renew these buildings that if you go nowadays, I was there 2 weeks ago, if you get a chance to go, this building is beautiful. They put over $80 million now, and it's beautiful, that building. Well, sure enough, the pandemic happened, and I thought I was going to be without a job, but God do exist, and actually I ended up becoming the CEO of the company. That was the first picture when they gave me the chance to run the team, and I got back to work, and I said, what can we do to move the needle in San Antonio? And that's when I connected with some of you guys in the San Antonio entrepreneur ecosystem. I joined the board of Kickoff, and we start breaking, things apart and trying to build. In a nutshell, it was 12 acres, 5 buildings. We raised over $20 million and assisted 25 biotechnology companies. One of the beliefs that I have is that there is no innovation without funding. So innovation has to be funded. And one of my concerns was that we didn't have any funds. In the foundation, we had a fund, but it was very tiny. It was already invested, so we decided to acquire Alamo Angels. Have you guys heard about Alamo Angels, some of you guys? Well, it's an angel network. So I became the chairman of the board. We acquired them. We expanded the board from 4 to 11 folks. And in a short period of time, we hired a very good executive director, which is Bastian. And in one of those journeys, I met this guy, the crazy guy in the middle. He's hard to miss. He's my new partner, Benito Jones. And with Alamo Angels, we worked really hard, and we were able to get that entity from 24 members to 152. It's the largest one in Texas right now. It's pretty remarkable. And I tell people, I think I stick my neck too much on that deal because I actually acquired them, and the board gave me 2 years to break even. And break even was like around 77 members, and we were not hitting them. So I'm like, okay, I might be without a job soon, but we, thanks to the team, we were able to get there. With this guy, the crazy guy that you see right there, Ben, he has sold 3 companies. The last one he sold for 9 figures to 7-Eleven, and he says, David, I want to create more than one company. So what we decided to create is what I'm CEO right now called Jockey Ventures. We build companies out of Colombia for the United States market and Latin America. And the way we got started was really focusing on, okay, why it's so hard to create companies, right? Why 92% of the companies that are created actually go bankruptcy? It's very hard. So we put a plan. I quit my job. We flew to Colombia and we incorporated the company. That's actually, I wanted to go back. That's actually Benito. Where is it? That's an American boy in a notary, starting a company in Colombia. I wanted to highlight that, sorry. And in a nutshell, people are like, okay, David, but you're so confusing. What does Jockey Venture do? Well, the vision is to be the best possible co-founder. Remember that I told you that I see myself as a co-founder? A co-founder just don't write a check. A co-founder actually gets to work. So I'm 100% committed and obsessed on building good companies. We want to build 6 companies in the next 18 months, and we have a fund behind us of $30 million, which is pretty much a blessing for us. And at the end of the presentation, I'm going to tell you a little bit about a company that I need some help with from you guys. So that being said, let's move on into the lessons learned of building an entrepreneur ecosystem. So how do you think globally and act locally? So when I was building this presentation, I was like, well, let's think globally for a second. No matter where you are in the world, there is this thing called an entrepreneurial ecosystem. Corey, you mentioned it early. I don't know where it's Corey, but you mentioned it early, the entrepreneurial ecosystem. What is an entrepreneurial ecosystem? This is how it looks like. And there are 2 pieces. There are the entrepreneurs. If you're in the crowd and you're an entrepreneur, you're right in the middle. That's the reason why we exist. If you succeed, all of us succeed, okay? Banks, community, houses, chamber of commerce, universities, you're going to hire people. The problem arises when somebody tries to lead the entrepreneur ecosystem and don't let the entrepreneur lead, okay? So there are feeders and leaders. The leaders in the entrepreneur, okay? No matter where you are in the world, and I've been to many countries, there is always those 2 types, leaders and feeders, okay? So when you think about startup ecosystems and startup hubs, you realize that actually they have been growing dramatically. From 2020 to 2022, 30% around the world. All these centers that we're here in have been popping up, boom, 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 boom. Why? Because local leadership at the government level and the private sector realized that this is the best way to create jobs and wealth. And the creation of jobs and wealth means economic development. Ron, you probably write a book on that, right? So the question is, okay, how much, David? Well, the startup hubs, if you think about it, 96% of the economy runs in small businesses, right? The mom and pop shops. Well, the other 4% are startups that are moonshots or have the hockey stick. Those are the incubators, the accelerators, the investment funds. For every dollar that we invest on them, they're returning $1.86 right now. So it's pretty remarkable. So when you start thinking about globally, you're like, okay, that's cool, David, but tell us a little bit about United States. Where do we see it? Well, historically, United States has been killing it. This is 2023 data and how top 10 countries by numbers of startups. We have, it's hard to read there, but we have 71,000 startups as of 2023. And the second country that is right there is India with only 13. That's pretty crazy, guys, right? And then if you look at the index, which is the most common index for startups, we're 198,000 in terms of index, and we're like 4 times more than United Kingdom. So we're in the place to be. You guys are, well, I go back and forth, so I'm American, so I'm here. So yes, we are in the place to be. Now, historically, I say, well, David, well, give us a timeline. Well, this is a timeline that compares all the countries in terms of entrepreneurship. They actually did a study of 4 different indexes, and the United States historically has been the place to be. That's why people want to come here, because we rock and roll. Does that make sense or no? So far, so good? Perfect. So then I was like, well, that's cool, but I really want to deep dive into the United States, look at data. Oh, watch this. Data without context is not knowledge. So you got to have a piece of data, put context around it, and then hopefully you are going to get some insight on how can we build a really good entrepreneurial ecosystem for Rio Grande Valley. Well, COVID happened, and this is a graph that I think it tells a story. And the graph is the Federal Reserve interest rate versus inflation, right? The inflation rate is the blue one. You see kind of a hockey stick right there, right? In May 2020 to May 2022, for 2 years, inflation started rising in the United States. And if you compare that graph, right, with the Federal Reserve Bank, it's pretty flat. You see that? Right here, all the way here. It's pretty flat. And they woke up one day in May 2022 and they're like, oh my God, inflation is almost 10%. We gotta rise rates, right? And as you can see, that's kind of it's about to fulfill the gap, right? Well, what happens is when inflation is up, cost of living goes up, right? But when interest rates are high, well, the cost of money goes up as well. Does that make sense? So far, so good? Well, this led to pretty much, in my humble opinion, right? I've never done this speech before. It burst the bubble. And when I call burst the bubble in terms of entrepreneurship and innovation, is what is going on right now. Well, if you guys remember, the Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. Remember that or no? It was in the news, it was all over the place. Thank God FDIC actually saved some of the deposits of folks. But this bank had clients with 50% of more than 50% of the venture capitalists in America. Result? Well, guess what? We had a record year, I call it the golden year, 2021. We had $644 billion invested in early stage companies. And the amount of deals, if my eyes, 32,000 deals. The next year, we only had 31,000 deals. So in terms of deal, we had the same, but we only invested 413. So the amount of funding for startups started declining. So that's what you heard investors saying, oh, it's pretty dry out there. That's what they mean. So question, after a record year in 2021, global startup funding declined to what? It's a percentage, no more than 100%. It's a question for a chocolate, for a Colombian chocolate. After a record year, the global startup funding in 2022 declined what? How much percentage? 35? 60? Everybody's quiet. Nobody wants chocolate. 75? 30%. Man, you have a lot of chocolates. You might want to, oh, sorry, I'll grab it for you. I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm not good at throwing chocolates. I got to practice more often. And then 30%, so think about this. Interest rates start going up. Inflation is trying to get under control. The most important bank for entrepreneurship and innovation collapses. Then funding drops 30%. And guess what happens? Layoffs, my friend. So now everybody's like, oh my God, there were 200,000 layoffs in the first quarter of 2023, right? Well, I was like, yeah, but 200,000 when you think about the amount of people that we have in the United States is not a lot. I mean, it's a lot of people, don't get me wrong. You know, that's twice the stadium of UT, I think. But I was like, well, historically, we have many layoffs. Since 2020, we have 1 million people laid off. In 2021, 1.2. In 2022, 1.4. That's crazy. That's a lot of people that don't have a job right now, which there is a correlation between layoffs and entrepreneurship and innovation. When you lose your job, you start being creative on how to make money. And most likely you create companies, right? So I don't see this as a bad thing. I see it as an opportunity for us, right? Okay, what about unicorns? You guys know what is a unicorn? What is a unicorn?
It's a business that was valuated at $1 billion or more.
Oh, wow. Before being public. Good job, man. So you guys have heard about that term? All of us are always looking for that unicorn. Well, it's like, okay, so what is going on with unicorns? What is the story? 80% growth of unicorns between 2020 and 2021, the golden years. Next year, 67% growth. What do you think it is right now? It's a percentage. It cannot be more than 67. It's coming down. What? 25. 45? 40? 40? 30? 20? 17? 15? 10. It's actually 8.5. That's going down, guys. But then again, when you compare it globally, well, United States is pretty remarkable. We have 35 compared to the second one in China, 4. So we're still killing it, right? We're in the place to be. And then you're like, okay, great. I just told you a lot about startups and innovation and entrepreneurship. Then you start thinking about, well, what about corporations? What is going on with corporations? So I tell people, well, when you think about corporate innovation and entrepreneurship, you got to think about corporations like a massive elephant. A corporation is a massive elephant. It's big, it's strong, it's very sharp, but God knows it's heavy and moves really, really slow, right? So I'm thinking, what is going on with corporations? I wanna learn about corporations. Quick question for another chocolate. What is the average life in years of an S&P 500, an elephant, in 1920? These are, some logos. In years. Julito, throw me a number. 150 years. No, go down. 20 years. 80 years. 75? 67 years. Man, you gotta share chocolates. You're winning more chocolates, right? So I was like, okay, this is 1920, guys. What is it today? As of, this data was 2022, 15 years. 15 years. So that elephant that was 67 years of age now is 15 years. You know what that means? CEOs of the S&P 500 companies have a time bomb in their hand. They don't sleep. I know that. And they're taking melatonin and they don't sleep. And I'm like, but so what can they do? Well, concurrently, if a startup was an animal, what kind of animal would be a startup? We have a lot of startup people here. If a corporation is an elephant, Philip. What, this guy, have you seen my presentation? It will be a cheetah. Why? Because the startup moves fast. This is a real picture from National Geographic. Her name is Sarah, and she did 5 seconds in 100 meters. Usain Bolt did like 11 seconds, so she would have eaten Usain. Well, no, don't go there. But actually, that's Sarah. And startups move super fast. They eat what they hunt, right? And they move fast. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to tell you, when people think about innovation, corporate innovation, all they're saying is, well, the Fortune 500 companies are investing 85% of the Fortune 500 companies are investing in entrepreneurship and innovation because that elephant needs to move, my friend. That's what I'm saying. So now they have in their budget something called innovation, but innovation is a synonym of M&As. We got to acquire startups, put them under the elephant, and push this thing forward because I have a time bomb, right? You got it? Make sense? And then, to close up, kind of the global thinking before we move on into, the entrepreneurial ecosystem is, a lot of people ask me, hey, David, what do you think about the return to work? I was like, don't ask me, ask the leaders. And 50% of the leaders around the world are saying, we got to go back to work, guys. We got to go back to the office. That's the reality, right? But the reality, too, is that, have you guys heard about this term, the digital nomads? Well, there were 11 million in 2021. By 2022, we were 35 million. That's 3 times growth. That's a lot of people, right? Do you know what place in the world they have more digital nomads in the world? Italy, no. Costa Rica. You like Costa Rica? Like fishing? No. Actually, it's Medellin, Colombia. That's crazy, right? And what do you think these digital nomads want or are looking for? Huh?
Chocolate break. Work balance. Quality of life.
Quality of life, that's one. Work balance, yeah, but what else? If I make dollars, I want to invest in pesos, right? So cost of living. And if you're going to be a digital is like a synonym of internet. You got to have good internet, right? Otherwise you can't work, right? So when I was thinking about the Rio Grande Valley, I'm like, man, cost of living, good internet, that's interesting, So that started making me think about acting local. So I just wanted to send a message, and again, I'm the new boy in the block, so give me a break on this one. But for me, there are no excuses. The reality of the matter is that 69% of the startups start at home. So everybody talks about WeWork. You remember WeWork? $69 billion, in valuation, and this crazy guy took it to the ground. They signed long-term leases, makes no sense. Bogota alone has 18 WeWorks. Oh my God, they're beautiful, right? And now they're like bankruptcy, Chapter 11, right? Oh man, entrepreneurship is gone. It's not gonna happen. Well, really, we don't care. 69% of the businesses start at home, right? 2, if I count to 10 here, and you guys are entrepreneurs, 4 of you guys are gonna make profits. That's pretty remarkable. That's pretty good data for the United States. Actually, around the world is much lower. And 58% of the startups have less than $25,000 to start a business. So if you're out there and you're thinking about taking the leap of faith, like I did, your chances are they're not that slim, 25% start with less than that. And if you're a leader that is starting, to help the entrepreneurial ecosystem, I got this formula out of a book called Startup Communities by Brad Feld. He's actually the guy behind Startup Weekend, actually, and Techstars. He's a super smart guy. And we go back to the basics, right? The entrepreneurial ecosystem led by entrepreneurs. Let your entrepreneurs lead, and once they have some exits, they're going to come back and reinvest into the local economy. We have seen it. The guys from Austin that we heard from, the chairman of the board of Capital Factory recently with Linda, he said, well, how did he call it? The dealers, the guys from Dell Computers, they stay around Austin and they reinvested. In San Antonio, it's the Rockers, right? So the Rockers took the company public and now they're investing. Well, that's what needs to happen, right? To have a long-term commitment. Ron, this morning when we were both talking about it, it was like, it really takes like 20 years to get an entrepreneurial ecosystem up and running, right? And we have been at it for a long time, we feel like, but we still have so much long ways, right? It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And we gotta be able to recognize that. 3, be inclusive. I always tell people, no matter what type of company you're helping, help the company. Let's start more companies. Doesn't matter in what industry, what stage, how much funding, let's get it done. But we gotta be like Darwin. You remember Darwin? Like he said, okay, the ecosystem is gonna decide if this species is gonna survive, right? That's what he says. So the same happens with the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Be inclusive, but be Darwinian or Darwin mentality. Let the market decide if they survive or not. Okay, makes sense? And last but not least, I think this is a great, Startup Week is a great example on how to engage the entrepreneurial ecosystem, because we can engage the community. It takes a whole village to raise one entrepreneur. And if you do that, most likely you're going to have a very happy entrepreneurial ecosystem, right? And then when I start deep diving into finding your DNA, I think that's one of the things that I've always talked about when you're building an entrepreneurial ecosystem is like, so what makes San Antonio different from Austin, from the Rio Grande Valley, of Bogota different, right? It's the DNA. So when you start trying to find your DNA, I tell people, well, be different, but be patient, It's okay. Everybody wants to be Silicon Valley is the worst idea, right? They have 60 years ahead of us. We don't have the universities, the capital, and the stories they have. So we gotta focus on what makes us different. And, our resources, we should configure them very differently to have a thriving ecosystem, right? So when I started doing my research, and this is just my thoughts, I'm not saying I'm right, okay? For the local leaders here, I'm just saying, we're in Texas, and Texas is killing it. The 10 largest cities in Texas account for $2 trillion, and pretty much that's the 9th economy of the world. So we're in the right place to be. We're in Texas, the Republic of Texas, right? But then there is a lot of talk about this triangle. I don't know if you guys have seen this one. And everybody talks about, San Antonio, Houston, Austin, Dallas, they account for $1.3 trillion. And then, 6.3% of the national economy runs through these ones, right? This is actually got this data from the media 3 days ago. A lot of people are talking about the North Texas Triangle, right? But I will start talking about the South Texas Triangle. How about that? We have very good cities like San Antonio, Laredo, Brownsville, McAllen, Monterey, and Corpus Christi. And the total GDP is pretty meaningful, I would say, right? That's a 1% total of the local economy of the United States. That's pretty remarkable. So it's not about, again, duplicating efforts. It's already jumping on what people are talking about Texas. People know that Texas is killing it, but people are talking about the South Texas Triangle. What about if we flip it and we try to do that? This morning I was having this amazing conversation with Linda, and I was telling him, in many ways the Gulf of Mexico has so much, in parallel to the Mediterranean Sea. And the Mediterranean Sea, that's Italy, that's Spain, right? Historically, people have fought wars for this area, right? And there is so much fishing, so much tourism, and so much trade, right? When you look at us, we have something that they don't have, and it's all the petroleum and oil that we're doing, from LNG that I was talking to Linda about it a minute ago, to oil and gas, right? 71% of the total trade goes through the Panama Canal. I was there like 2 months ago. It's unbelievable. Mexico has been talking about doing a canal. What if we actually believe that we have very unique resources for people to move here and turn it around? Yes, in terms of density of population, we're not there. But man, Florida, Louisiana, Texas, and then Mexico account for a lot of trade, okay? So for local leaders, that's very hard to replicate, and I believe will create tons of value. Back to the basics, I wanted to start closing, in terms of the entrepreneur ecosystem. When you're leading this organization, you start thinking, okay, so what do we need? What are the gaps? The only difference between ecosystems that thrive and ecosystems that don't thrive is finding gaps in the entrepreneur ecosystem. So when we were in Corpus Christi, Texas, we decided to actually start an angel network called the South Texas Angel Network. And we went to Fort Worth, and the guys from Fort Worth were like, actually in Corpus Christi, Texas, there are investors. I'm like, yeah, there are some. I said, well, you'll be lucky if you get 3, David. We actually did a yacht club, it was very fancy. It was the yacht club dinner, and 27 people showed up, and 25 signed up for our angel network. And last year alone, they invested $5 million into startups. That's pretty remarkable, right? So I feel that, the leaders here are working very hard at fulfilling the gaps. This building is a testament of that. I know there are more partnerships coming in with the Methodist Hospital doing the accelerator, with Geekdom and the Startup Weekend, and so on. One thing that I wanted to bring up for the leaders that are here is that, of course, I have an opinion about immigration. So countries like Canada, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Philippines have been cashing out on the fact that we have very poor policies around keeping the best and the brightest. So what do? If you look into the data, more than 80% of the applicants for these visas come from the United States, and there are international students that have very good ideas and they want to create companies, but we educate them and we kick them out. So good news, when I was doing my research, because I don't want to throw rocks only, I came around this visa, the O1 visa. Have you guys heard about this visa? Yeah, maybe? No? Well, they actually just put it in place for scientists, researchers, entrepreneurs, artists. You have 96% chance of getting approved, and it's between $7,000 and $15,000, and it's for people that want to create companies. So there is hope out there. So if you start thinking about digital nomads and the resources and the visas, people want to come here. People from Mexico are probably not very happy with the political risk that they're living there. I've been in Mexico 7 times in the last 2 months, and people are not very happy there. So you start thinking about the entrepreneur ecosystem here, and I believe there is an opportunity. 2, if you are a local leader here, especially for the BCIC, this program, Corey, is called Corfo. They have been doing it for the last 17 years in Chile, and they have established over 150 venture capitalist firms in Chile. They do 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1 matching, and actually Jockey just applied, and we're going to know in July if we got the matching funding for it, and it's remarkable. Now Chile, which is a very small country, that in their DNA, finding your DNA, they export a lot of companies, they have over 150 venture capitalist firms, because one entity called Corfo decided to start bringing early stage investors. It's pretty remarkable. Then if you start thinking about local, digital nomads, have you guys heard about Tulsa Remote? It's a pure digital nomad, play. They give $15,000 to people that are willing and able to move to Tulsa to start their digital nomad pathway, right? And if you think about 15,000, you're like, oh my God, 15,000, that's a lot. Well, not really when you start thinking about the direct, indirect, and induced jobs they create in the local economy, right? So that's another one that I wanted to bring up. I think they are doing a good job. And the last one that I wanted to bring was the Startup Nation, the story of Israel economic miracle. If you like books, read that book. It's crazy. I mean, Israel had a very elderly population, and they were able to support the local innovation economy, and right now they have the most patents per capita. That's crazy, $10 billion in venture capital, and when people think about innovation entrepreneurship, they think about Israel. So there are some good programs out there for it. So food for thoughts, now closing my presentation and opening for questions. I wanted to give you some thoughts about my journey and some, quotes that I have gone through them, and I'm like, I probably should share this with people, People are like, David, you're pretty lucky, you have a lot of luck. Well, in my head, the definition of luck is when opportunity meets preparation. You don't control your opportunity, but you control your preparation. You gotta be ready, and when the opportunity arises, you capitalize on it. Make sense? 2, the story of my life. If somebody offers you an incredible opportunity and you're not sure if you can do it, say yes, who cares, and learn later, right? No, I mean, you ask me, I've never run a venture capitalist firm, and here I am, fake it until you make it, type of mentality. International Business Innovation Association Director, Global Director. I've never done these programs, I was just a kid, I barely speak English. But fake it until you make it, If somebody comes and offers you an opportunity, say yes, and start learning, read books, and get it done, 3, this is very important. This is very American in my head when I do international. People are not what they say they are. People are what you do. So stop paying attention to what you say and stop paying attention to what you do. And suddenly things are going to start happening to you, okay? And some of you guys, and I'm pretty sure, are going to end up being bosses and leading teams. And just be cautious. People don't leave jobs. People leave bosses. So if your people are leaving you, maybe look at the mirror, okay? I'm in a microphone, so I shouldn't say it, but don't be a jerk. Be nice. Build your teams and be a nice guy, And last but not least, be stubborn with the vision and flexible on the details. A vision is something that you have in your mind, and you gotta sell it while the facts catch up to you. So I'm gonna sell to you guys something. This is a company that we're building right now. It's called EquityX. We're in the United States market. And I don't know how many of you guys know a family business. Many family business, right, in the United States. 85% of the economy runs in family business, actually. Well, it turns out that 70% of the family business don't have a succession plan. They don't. So second generation, they actually go bankrupt. So what we decided to do with EquityX is build a holding where we come and buy 100% of a company and we give it back to the employees. Make sense? So we're trying to build, and I'm selling the vision, guys, while the facts catch up to me. We'll create a $15 billion of wealth in the next 20 years. So we're looking at companies, small businesses that are 10 years of age, right? That their owner is about to retire, that have a layer of management, and the EBITDA is $500 to $3 million. So if you know any company out there that is going through this process, please let me know because we want to acquire them, okay? So again, I'm just selling my vision. I wouldn't be doing my job. This is the only sales, slide that I have here, Linda. And with that, hopefully next time that we see each other, my other vision that I have is to be able to be an astronaut on top of a unicorn. Why not? Why not? With that, thank you guys. Appreciate you. So I think we have some time for questions, Linda, or no? Yeah, I think we do. Any questions, comments, concerns, chocolates? Yeah?
How do you cope with fear and uncertainty when you take on something that you're not sure that you can do?
Philip here asked, how do I cope with fear and uncertainty of things that are not gonna, I think, I don't know how religious you are, right? So it's very personal what I'm gonna tell you, but I believe fear doesn't come from God, right? So when I'm under pressure, I think being under pressure is a privilege because I work really hard to be in the position I am right now, to have the pressure and to be able to shape, some of my destiny. I put myself in a position where I want to shape destiny and just say thanks because it happened, right? So I know I don't control the outcome, right? But I control the preparation, and I believe that the team makes the dream happen, and I surround myself with very smart people right now. I'm very, out of Jockey, if you look at the website and you look at our partners, I'm the dumbest one. I made sure to be the dumbest one in the team. I mean, we have the 7 employee of Rappi. Rappi raised $2.4 billion. We have a guy that sold his company to Hopper. We have very good partners there, and that's how I cope with it, with the uncertainty. It's not easy, but swing at the bat, man. You might get a home run. Good question. You want a chocolate? More questions?
Where are you based out of? Austin, San Antonio?
So we have an office in Bogota, Colombia. A beautiful place. It's higher than Denver. Weather is awesome. Food is great. We are welcome to come. But we have an office also in San Antonio, and we're opening the office in Chile because of the Corfo. We actually have an office there right now. How do you create a network when you're unknown? But you're talking about from the personal perspective or from the company perspective? From the what? From the founder perspective? I think you gotta engage with the community, right? If you start showing up to events and you start shaking some hands and you follow through what you say you're gonna do, one of the best advice that I got when I was starting my career from Bill Cohn was, David, you would not believe, but watch your commitments and keep them. If you do that, you're gonna have a very successful career. And back then I was like, that seems pretty obvious and pretty simple. Well, it turns out that there's a lot of people that say they're gonna do things and they don't do it. That's the reality of the world that we live in. So before you leave, you answer your emails, you answer your phone calls, and you're gonna be perceived as a pretty efficient guy. It's as simple as that. So when building your network, that's what I will do. Show up, shake hands and follow through your commitments, and suddenly people start realizing, the attitude of this guy is pretty solid. He's somebody that can be trusted. Another tip there is, I define trust as, if you say you're gonna do A and you actually do A, my trust level goes up. But if you say that you're gonna do A and you don't do it, my trust level goes down. So that's how you build a good network, I believe. Good question. You want a chocolate? I'll give you a chocolate. Yeah? Okay, I'm afraid of hitting somebody, but... Oh, that was a good throw. Okay, more questions. More questions?
The Equity X, is that already open?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is the Equity X that you're developing is already open?
Yeah,
For
we
those type
got
of
into...
family companies?
Yeah, so Jockey's a company builder. So we actually decided, June 8th, we got into a conference room in Colombia. We worked really hard for a week, and we decided to fund this company, and we already have a team behind. So we're in the Mexico market under Enciaco, which is a different brand, and then we just decided to open the United States as well. Because of some of the data that I show you, United States is pretty remarkable what is happening in the United States. So it's up and running. So we're ready to acquire a company. Our goal is to acquire 4 companies this year. So hold me accountable for it. So what else? We're good? Yeah, the question is, how can they contact me? Via email is probably the easiest way. It's david@jockeyvc.com is one of them, or LinkedIn. It's hard in LinkedIn because you receive a lot of sales speeches, but also Linda has my phone number. Julito, Philip, anybody here has my phone number. We'll be happy to to respond for the calls, and we're always back and forth. I'll be here at the end of the month as well. Question.
Thank you, David.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, David. I appreciate it, man.
David's a really good friend to the Eco Center with his time as
I encourage everyone to please go ahead and get some snacks, and there's still some coffee available. At 11:30 up in the Blueprint Lab, we'll actually be doing our first pop-up clinic. So really excited about that, and we'll have lunch for everyone at noon as well. So thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your morning. Thank you.